Welcome to Movie World, the place where we only talk movies. I'm Andy Signor, and today I'm reviewing Cherry, starring Tom Holland and directed by the Russo Brothers. Some of you may remember this film as Check, just this weird poster they accidentally sent out a while back, and it always made me laugh. But no, the film is actually Cherry, and it's actually based on a book by Nico Walker. It's a true story. Nico is the man that Tom Holland is portraying, and the story of Cherry revolves around Nico, who was from all accounts, a good kid growing up in a regular town. He then meets a girl, but decides to enlist, goes into the army, and then after the experiences in the army, gets PTSD, is given drugs sort of to try to deal with that, but then becomes addicted to worse drugs, and then decides to rob banks to justify his dope habit. So the film really runs the gamut of multiple sort of parts in Nico's life, and Tom Holland plays Nico, I have to say, pretty well. It's a good performance by Tom Holland. It's his first opportunity to really step up and lead a movie, because I would argue even in the Spider-Man films, he's still slightly more of a supporting character in those films around everybody else. He's also always behind the mask for a better chunk of the movie. This one really lets Tom Holland shine as an actor. And I got to say, look, he's good. He is good. Is he the best person for this role? I don't know. I think it's just a problem of typecasting him. So I actually do applaud him and the Russos for putting him in this, take that chance. I mean, obviously they did it for the box office sake if he has a lot of fans who love him from Spider-Man. But I applaud them for letting him sort of, stretch his acting muscles here, because he really does get a chance to shine more and do things that he wouldn't typically do. That said, there's still a lot of a Peter Parker character in this. It's hard to not see him as the innocent character in the beginning that sort of turns into more of a darker journey he has to go on. It's hard to not see him always as that young kid. So it's a blessing and a curse for Tom Holland. Yes, I do think he did well, but I can see some of the criticisms as to sort of not buying him in this role, since it does really get darker. The film starts off with him and his love interest, played by Ciara Bravo. She's another child actor because Tom Holland is as well. Tom Holland has done a lot of films. I remember he was really great in that film in The Impossible with Naomi Watts as the son. Ciara, I think it's Ciara, so apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name, but she's a Nickelodeon star. She's been on a bunch of Nickelodeon shows, so even she gets a chance to sort of really go against type here. Both of these actors clearly wanting to become more grown-up actors, and they both, I would say, do a great job. The film is really about, a huge chunk of it is about their love affair. He falls in love with this woman, this girl, and then she sort of plays hard to get. She then plans to move out of town to go to, I think it was Canada or something. Sorry, I watched it about a week ago. I forget exactly where she's moving, but she tells him, I'm moving out and we're done. He gets so distraught that he enlists in the army to sort of try to get through his emotions of how distraught he is, and clearly how aimless he is as well. According to the book, it's not just because of the girl. He went to war because he really wanted to serve. I didn't get that feeling from this movie, but they really do sort of play it like he enlists because she moved away and he didn't know what else to do. And that it's frustrating because he chooses to enlist really does form the rest of the movie. He goes and serves time. He does his time there as enlisting in the army. Clearly, it's not an easy time for him at all. He does not enjoy it. He feels totally they don't take care of him. He does what he can, but the horrors of war clearly affect him and a lot of his other people, his fellow soldiers, and it sticks with him. He's got serious PTSD. He's having massive trauma problems being there, sneaking away to try and call her on the phone as they sort of try to continue their relationship. The film progresses again, and then as he gets back, he has so much PTSD and problems, he needs to get medication, and those medications sort of aren't enough. He then proceeds to shoot up with some dope. He then gets stuck on that, and it becomes a drug addiction story in the last act. That then turns into a bank robbery story. Now, I'm not spoiling this because they sort of tell you this in the beginning. It's one of those movies that's like, how did I get here? How did this happen? They show you sort of the bank robbery moment, and then they rewind and go through the film in chapters. And again, the film is just odd because tonally, it really is almost three different movies. You're watching this coming-of-age love story about these two people who are too young and don't know whether they want to be together. And then it zooms into a enlistment war movie, and then it zooms into this sort of drug addiction chapter, as well as a heist movie with sort of, can these guys actually pull off robbing banks? So you got so much going on in this story that it is a lot. And I think I can see some of the criticism out there that I agree with tonally, the Russos are trying their best to sort of continue this really epic story, and they're trying to do a lot of visual flares and tricks that they've done throughout their previous big budget films. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it does work where it sort of keeps things interesting, and it's a new sort of way to look at sort of what could have been just a very dramatic indie film. They're definitely trying to kick it up with some flair throughout the running time to sort of, use their superpowers, if you will, the directors. But sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does just feel out of place, and tonally the mashup doesn't always come through. To me, it didn't play off the right way. The war movie is probably the most interesting movie out of all of them, followed by, I guess, then the sort of the bank robbery parts. But the drug addiction parts are such a downer, and just you're just watching this man sort of just destroy his life, that it becomes just very heavy, which was the true story of it. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happens and where it all ends up, but this film is broken down into chapters. There are title cards similar to what they did, in the Avengers movies. They have those big, huge smash title cards. Is a sort of a style they seem to like. And the other thing that the film has a lot of, which I didn't always love, was narration. Tom Holland narrates most of the movie. His audio is overlaying and telling us everything that's happening, and it just feels like they're trying to get the feel of the book, which I did some research, and people love the book for the way sort of it's written. And so it seems like and when you adapt a book and you sort of resort to narration, I think it's a little bit lazy. At the same time, it's sort of a way, well, how else do you convey what the author and the the POV is saying throughout in the movie? They resort to it. Now, did they need to do that? I don't know. It's a lot to spit out. I don't know if you needed to, but it's a lot. And at times I think that's really what sort of becomes overbearing in the film of like, do I need him to explain everything? But then once you sort of set up the narration tone, then what do you do? Again, there's a lot of it's a mixed bag, right? So you got a drug addiction story, which is intense. You got these sort of interesting bank robbery scenes, which I enjoyed. But then you got the war stuff, which is also really intense. And then you got this sort of love affair of these two young people sort of falling for each other. Will they stick it through? What happens to them? It's a long journey that this character Cherry goes through along with his girlfriend and everything else. And overall, like I said, I didn't hate it. I wasn't bored. It did feel bloated at times. It did feel over-directed at times, for sure. So that's what makes it more of a middle-of-the-road thumb for me. The thing that would lift it up slightly is I do applaud Tom Holland for putting himself out there and doing such a role with so many opportunities. Could someone else have come in and done better? Yes. And I think that's only just because Tom hasn't gotten a lot of his opportunities. Now that he has gotten this opportunity, I see he's got potential. And so you can't really get there unless you get the chances to try. So it's a good at-bat for Tom. I think good on the Russos to seemingly do a smaller story, but it's not. It's definitely still a big story for them to tackle. But I would have loved to have seen them make it a little bit more intimate at times instead of resorting to their sort of blockbuster tricks that I feel like visual flares and things that they're doing. So overall, yeah, it's hard to. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm very middle of the road. If I were to give this film a rating between 1 and 10, which is what I'm tending to do at the end of these reviews, I'd say I'd give this one about a 6. A lot of my movies are just going to fall upon that 6 and the 7. Now that I'm actually rating films, I understand why people don't want to always just rate it by a number because it'll change over time. Will this withstand the test of time? Will I like this film over time? No. That's why it's not a 7. There's nothing about it that I'm going to like more. So I'm going to keep it at the 6 and I think about it because I don't think this film will live with me very long. And it'll be really just an interesting a notch in Tom Holland's filmography and career as sort of the moment where he sort of did this and stretched his muscles. And I think that's how this film will ultimately be remembered by. So that's my review of Cherry. If you haven't yet subscribed here or to my other channel, Popcorn Planet, consider that. Please hit the sub, hit the alerts, but do it if you like these reviews. You're going to watch the videos. Smash the like button and leave the comment if you are engaged in this content because I'm trying to build this up as a second movie-only channel. I got a lot more I'm trying to do here. The more you guys watch, the more you'll get. So thank you guys for supporting me here in my movie thoughts, my criticisms. So happy to be here back on Movie World. Stay tuned for more and check out these reviews in the meanwhile. Appreciate all of you. Stay tuned. See you later.